Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How you doing, Steve? You ready to rip into it today?
I am. Hello everyone out there in your super colony, wherever you are.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to the humans as ants topic shortly, but just to start with, we're going to sort of shake things up for the structure of things as we're looking forward to sort of experimenting a bit. Plus two, we want the Herculean task of cramming in even more information for you to listen to as
That's
we go
right.
through that.
There's so much out there, FiST Chat will deliver it each week.
Absolutely. So we thought we'd just start off with kind of like a what have we been up to kind of segment. Do you want to maybe kick that off, Steve? Just what you've been up to in the past week?
Yeah, well, Friday night I was lucky enough to go and see Heston Blumenthal live in a fantastic show. And he's been doing the rounds of Australia. For those of you who aren't into, scientific cuisine, which is the only way you could describe Heston, he has rated the world's best restaurant, the Fat Duck, in the UK. And he basically, he's referred to as an alchemist. I'd refer to him as a food chemist. But go to his website, Heston, Cook Like Heston, I think is one of them. Check it out and just see for yourself the sort of amazing dishes that he makes. He's a chemist. He's a scientist.
Oh, well, definitely. And we'll definitely have to do a food chemistry episode at some point in the future because it's fascinating stuff.
You bet. I've got some beauties for you, Ben, there.
Sounds good. Just from my end, I thought I'd, in the coming week, I'll be uploading some iPhone photography. Basically, for the past year, I've just been taking some snaps using the iPhone with the Camera Plus app and, running filters through it. We've spoken offline a couple of times how you don't even really need to have, like, all the setup anymore. You just need your phone and you're taking what looks like professional photos. So I'll upload those this week. So and I'll probably overlay some during the episode here so you can have a look at what we're talking about.
That's it, Ben. My grandfather's darkroom kit, straight in the bin.
Yep, absolutely, all gone. That's why we did an episode on how Kodak bit the bullet, didn't it? And just one other thing, I wanted to recommend if you haven't already, subscribe to TED Talks. They're fantastic. Just basically they're presentations by some of the most brilliant minds in the world, and just two that I saw this week. You can subscribe to it on iTunes, so that's why I like it, because I can just play it in the comfort of my living room off the Apple TV. There was one about memory where the presenter there, Joshua Foer, I think his name was, he was talking about using, you can improve your memory using spatial visual memory, because you actually remember images rather than words, which was quite interesting. And I hope I get the pronunciation of this right. J.P. Rangaswamy, I think it was. He was speaking about information as food. The idea that if you actually viewed the consumption of information, i.e. learning, as if you're eating food, you'd probably consume a lot more of it and you'll probably open your mind up to a lot more things. So very fascinating talks, but there's so many of them on the TED Talks site that it's amazing.
Very good. They do sound very interesting, Ben. I will be checking them out.
Absolutely. And now we're going to move on a bit. We're just going to cover a few quick news stories related to film, science and technology. Two quick film ones. Ashton Kutcher is, if you don't know already, is actually going to be playing Steve Jobs in a biopic.
Oh, goodness. I didn't know that. Oh, dear, oh, dear. I guess he already plays Walter in 2.5 Men. So Walden, yeah. I mean, that's like...
What's going on there? The frightening thing is, I don't know if you've seen a side-by-side picture of him next to a young Steve Jobs, but they look very, very similar.
So acting ability wasn't one of the criteria?
Yeah, well, that's the only concern, I would say. There's a very big problem there.
Oh, we love Ashton. That's just a joke.
Absolutely. Knock us out. Prove us wrong.
Punked.
Absolutely. I just want to also mention quickly, too, obviously the Avengers was open really big over the weekend, and it looks like it's may potentially be the one movie that might knock James Cameron off his 1 and 2 perch. But because apparently it made just this past weekend, it broke the record as being 100 million, the first film to 100 million in its second weekend, first film to make 200 million in its first 3 days. So pretty amazing. And as you would expect, Disney CEO Bob Iger was incredibly excited by the result.
I was incredibly embarrassed because I thought it was a remake of the 1960s British television series.
Well, then it would be an entirely different kettle of fish, and all the more reason to be excited.
Absolutely.
We'll move on to science. I remember in the last episode last year we talked about the end of the world, the Mayan calendar. Apparently the earliest known Mayan calendar has been found in some house in Guatemala, and it offers no hint that the world's end is imminent.
No, that's true, but we all know, as we covered, that the Mayan calendar is cyclical, and once it gets around to the end, it just starts back at the start.
Absolutely. Now, just for a tech topic, we've got Apple and its revamp of its Maps application. Apparently, they're ditching Google. Maybe this is part of Steve Jobs' war against Google, or maybe that's carried on to his, the people that took over from him. But apparently, they're going to be ditching it in favor of their own 3D mapping technology.
Well, that is actually quite exciting, Ben. You can hear the crowd going wild in the background, probably, but that's huge. I mean, no one, I guess it's not been conceived that anyone could take Google on, especially with regards to Google Maps. And if Apple are going to do that, that's a significant move. And I'll tell you what, that's Apple really taking Google on. Yeah,
absolutely. So it should be interesting to see. And hopefully iOS 6 will, if apart from that feature, hopefully it'll have a lot more. It'll advance the operating system a bit more, because I think iOS at the moment's sort of stagnating a little bit. There's only so much you can do with it. So
it is, but do we have time quickly to mention the Samsung Galaxy S3?
Oh, please do, yeah.
Which watches you, won't shut itself down if it can see you through its camera. If that's where operating systems are going for phones, Ben, I'm not sure I like it.
No. Hopefully Apple's got a bit more foresight than that. All righty. Let's hopefully we got through that all okay, and we'll hopefully do that sort of thing a bit more often in the future. So it's quite interesting. There's a lot to talk about out there, and it's quite fascinating. But if we move on now, we'll talk about our main topic today, and had to chuckle when I read this headline: human society starting to resemble ant colonies.
Yeah.
Now, the idea here is that if you have a look at it, both human and ant societies share features that allow for nearly unlimited growth potential. Members of human and ant societies are not required to distinguish each other as individuals for a group to remain unified. And only environmental conditions could likely limit the growth of these activities. So, interesting stuff there. We're not apes anymore. We're just busy little worker ants.
Well, this is it, Ben. And this is the really interesting thing. I mean, ants, bees, wasps, and even termites are very social insects, or they have a very highly defined social order. And so, I guess we as humans kind of identify with that. Workers, soldiers, queens, drones, all of that, and they all have to do their bit to ensure that the population survives and succeeds. Ants are amazing. Some of their colonies can extend hundreds of kilometres, and there's some conjecture that there is a super ant colony that extends across 3 continents.
Yeah.
So how do the ants do it, is the question. And, of course, for anyone who's seen Spielberg's Ants, it's very easy for humans to put human qualities on these, on this social hierarchy that you see within an ant colony. And then we tend to think that, we could probably learn something from ants. And as it happens, we can. Now, ants have been tested for everything from stock market predictions through to how people move in crowds, and also with regards to communications, robotic systems, artificial intelligence. And what they're finding now, though, is that humans that have moved from small groups, like most mammals or chimps, where you might have a colony of, maybe up to 80 or 90 individuals, where probably all the individuals know each other.
Yeah.
Now in a city of 1 million, you don't know anyone, hardly.
No.
And we are starting to behave like ants through our communications. That's how we keep order. That's how we keep things working. That's how we keep things going in our hive or colony or whatever you want to call it.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, what are we then, we came, as...
We're not ants, in case anyone out there has been mistaken by like some of these articles.
But it doesn't seem we're entirely ape-like either. So, it's almost, are we, mutating somehow, or just, is it just the numbers?
Evolution never stops, Ben.
Yeah.
And I've been assured by Richard Dawkins that we are quite possibly and very likely the only creatures, at least on this planet, if not anywhere in the universe, that might actually be able to consider and contemplate the future. So, ants actually just do what they do, but humans have this ability to look into the future and look forwards. And I think that what we're actually seeing or contemplating now is our own evolution and where we might end up.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. It's just unbelievable. But, I mean, if we take this on a sort of a sidetrack, we're talking here about, humans as insects, but we also heavily rely on them as well. And this story that you sent through to me earlier in the week, just about colony collapse disorder in bees. It's very, very disturbing. Do you want to just go through that a bit?
Yeah, well, it's a disease that basically causes bee colonies the actual hives to die out, and nobody's still quite sure, I don't think. I think they've found a couple of factors it could be, or a combination, but they don't know why or how the mechanisms of it happening, and it's very serious because without bees, the world would lose a third of its food supply. Bees are necessary for pollination of plants, so it'd be very serious.
You'd think that would have, even taking this aside, the infections that they're talking about, even just the impact that humans are having on the planet would have to have an impact on say, bee colonies and whatever, because you know how they say one thing affects another, and affects another, and then if we end up destroying too much stuff, or here we go, we're taking the green tack here, but it can affect all of these things, but this isn't it's not really a good sort of thing to hear about, but
any extinction's never good.
No, of course not. But at the same time, it's fascinating that there are a lot of scientists out there sort of investigating this, and I'm guessing looking for solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, as I said, without bees, the world would be in a lot of trouble. But, for anyone out there with an interest in insects, they're not nearly as awful as they're made out. I mean, they're almost as cute as they are in the movies.
Absolutely, and it would seem that according to our behaviour, we're turning into them.
Yes, well, yeah, that's scary in itself.
Absolutely. But that just one other thing that just occurred to me socially, you're saying we got so many people now, and as like ants, they don't need to know anyone else. And maybe it's a function of our society, the growth of numbers, the use of technology, etc. Even though there are so many more people, we seem to know less people now, which is kind of an interesting conundrum.
Well, I think there was a report just released in the last few days actually on that Facebook's making us lonelier. And it's interesting, if you read a few more articles on the humans like ants thing, there is a lot to say that, ants don't actually need a central controller, or they don't need to necessarily follow orders. It's that they understand the networks within their ant world. And, to a large extent, Facebook mimics that. You don't really need to know about how Facebook works or what it's doing, or you don't even need to know everyone who uses Facebook. But what someone else is doing who you may never have heard of, through the various channels and communication channels on Facebook, they can actually influence your choices. So that's kind of where it's going, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Steve, looks like we've run out of time. We've managed to cram it all in our required allotment, so that's all good. So thanks again.
Not a problem at all.
Absolutely. So don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. We're going to post a whole lot of stuff this week because we covered actually quite a bit. And we'll also have our usual blogs as well posted up there. So that's it for this week's episode. So we'll catch you next week.